Hi everyone, my name is Phil and welcome to Phil Does 3D. I'm a multimedia and 3D artist and I stream on Twitch weekdays from 5 PM Pacific time in the United States, 10 AM in Australia and 1 AM in the UK. Okay, we are working on an Art Deco building in the Unreal Engine 4.16.2. We're going to be creating a cinematic fly-through of an environment inside of the building and then back out again. This is the Art Deco building in Max that we've got in Unreal. Again, I'm just going to quickly play the video of the environment that we've created. Now, I'm playing the video and not showing you in Unreal itself simply because OBS really hates real time. And the images you're seeing here in the video are stills. They're not actually moving, but the entire environment will actually be moving and swaying in the breeze and all that sort of good stuff, all the trees and vegetation in the final cinematic. So yeah, again, this is the environment. We're working on the interior of the Art Deco building at the moment. Remember guys, if you've got any questions or anything you're not sure about, please feel free to pop into chat and ask me. If I can help, I'm happy to try. If you just want to pop into chat and say hello, that's always welcome. If you just want to watch, that's completely fine. So again, yeah, this is our environment that we've set up in Unreal 4.16.2. The environment has fog, but it doesn't have volumetric fog, which is a new feature they added in 4.16, I believe. We will turn that on, but we'll do that towards the end once we've got everything set up so we can adjust it all properly. And the fog level at the moment inside the building is a little heavy. Again, we'll wait till the very end until we adjust that. So that's our Art Deco building in the engine itself. In a minute, I'll jump into Unreal and we'll continue working on the interior. Do remember too, guys, if you want to join my Phil Does 3D Twitch server, you can do that through the Twitch desktop app. If you want an invitation link, just type !server in chat and that'll give you a link to join the server. Hey Sniper Echo, good to see you, buddy. How's things? Okay, so my regulars are really sick of me showing the environment, I'm sure. Let's jump straight into Unreal, into the interior of the building here. Let's go full screen so you guys can get a bit better of a look at what we're doing here. So we have our Art Deco building interior that we're working on at the moment. I'll jump out of full screen and turn on simulation because we do have a few physics assets in the level here. These are hanging lights. They gently sway in the breeze and slowly turn slightly. You'll probably notice that with the shadow moving here on the wall. It's very subtle because it's inside the building. Good to hear, Sniper Echo. It's inside the building, so I don't want the thing swaying around madly. And like I was saying yesterday, just adding a few physics objects here and there can really help to sell the realism of the level more. So everything's not completely static, it's slightly moving. We did the same thing upstairs here in our second room. We have the same light fittings up here, slowly moving and swaying and casting their shadow and all that sort of good stuff. So I'm just going to stop simulation there. That's just a bug in Unreal. We were working on this room yesterday. Hey, Johan the creator. Yeah, you like the lighting? Very moody? Oh, good. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm going for that moody, dark sort of look for the interior of the building. Sniper Echo says, what way did you animate those lights? I'm using a physics asset, so let's just jump up to the light here and have a look. The light itself is a physics asset, so it has physics turned on in its properties, just here, so simulate physics. Hopefully you can see that. I might scroll up a bit. It's hidden behind my music player. Turn on simulate physics. So it's a physics object that I've attached a, what am I Unreal calling this thing? Thruster, I believe. I've attached a thruster to it. Now the thruster is simply to keep the thing moving in the level because we're not going to be, we're creating a cinematic, so there's not going to be a player shooting at it to move it, which is what happens generally with physics. And for that reason, I've attached a thruster just to gently, let's play this, just to keep the thing moving slightly. Otherwise, a physics asset has a habit of stopping if nothing hits it or touches it or moves it. So that's what the thruster is for. And I've attached that physics object to a connector here, a joint, and that's what actually drives the physics on the object. Okay. Again, you see that this sphere here is just a standard sphere actor that you place in Unreal here, a sphere. I'm using that just as my anchor point for the joint, which is then attached to the light. And yeah, and that thing there with the arrow, yellow arrow, is a thruster, just to keep the light moving slightly. What I'm going to be doing is I'm probably going to be also using physics on, probably on the gates down here. We have these wrought iron gates, which I'm going to have open, and I'll have them probably slightly moving in the breeze as well, just a gentle sway. We're probably also going to do that. I'll jump outside. I've just got to watch OBS. It hates this exterior environment. At the very beginning here, we've got these really ornate gates as well. Let me jump all the way through. Again, the fog here is a little heavy. I'm going to knock it back at the end, but we've got these main gates here at the front as well. And I'll probably add physics to those as well, just to have them slightly swaying in the breeze. So yes, just a couple of physics objects here and there. The environment doesn't need it because it's all going to be moving in the wind when we do our cinematics. It's all wind animated. But the interior of the building just needed a couple of things, I thought, just to bring it to life a bit. Otherwise, it can end up being a bit sterile, I guess, just because nothing's moving. So again, we're going to do the furniture last. I'll be placing like I'll call them hero pieces of furniture around the building. It's not going to be fully furnished like a normal home would be, but we're going to add what's the word I'm looking for? I'll call them just sort of like feature pieces of furniture here and there, just to help to fill up the building a bit and make it look a bit more natural and real. But we'll do that at the very end once we've finished placing all the rest of our bits and pieces in our building here. So we're still working on the interior section of the building. We placed the curtains yesterday. Props. Thank you, Johan the creator. Props is the right word, or assets, I guess you could call them too. So yeah, that's what we'll do that at the very end though, as well as plants and that type of thing as well, like potted plants and things. And I actually do want to bring in, I've got a couple of, I want to bring in that angel that my regulars are familiar with that I created, that's on my Creative Market and Cornucopia 3D stores. Let me just open up Explorer here quickly, and I just want to show you the angel statue we're going to be bringing into the level for the interior of the building, by the way. Give my website a minute here. We'll look at it on Cornucopia actually. Again, if you want to know more about me, just go to phildoes3d.com and you can read up about me there. This one here, we're going to bring this angel statue into the interior. It was created for an exterior environment, like you can see in the picture here, but so I'm not going to be bringing in the trellis work. I'll just be bringing in the angel statue and the base, and we'll place her inside of the building as well. So I think she'd look really good, pardon me, really good just out in the entryway when we get to that gate inside the building before we get to the stairs. I think one of her on either side would look interesting to draw your eye into that gate. So that's the plan. here basically. So I'll have one of each of her on either side of below the curtain, around here and around here, because our camera will come in through here and swing down before we actually go up through the gate and up into the steps. Okay. Now I'm doing a room at a time. I thought that was a more interesting way for you guys watching the stream to view the work, instead of me jumping around the entire building and doing a bit here and a bit there and never really getting it completely complete until the very end. I thought what we do is we work on one section at a time and complete that up, apart from furniture and plants, of course, and then move on to the next section. So we're working our way from the front of the building to the back of the building. Now there are a few bits and pieces left here that need to be done. I need to do this bay window section here. I'm going to have to create something unique in Max for that, because that was never designed. I actually never created the assets for the inside of that. I am going to be placing a curtain here, which I should probably put in, and actually I'll leave that till the end, because it'll be difficult for me to get in there and work if I put my curtain up first. Again, that was why I placed the curtains here last, because I needed to be able to get in behind the curtain to do the window frames and things like that. So if I had my curtain there before I'd completed the interior, it would have been much more difficult for me to work on it. So it was like I was explaining the other day, you think of doing a building like this more like an interior decorator would, where they do the design of the window frames and the walls, and then the last sort of thing they do is the curtains and the furniture and all that type of thing. We're doing it the same sort of way. So down here is almost complete. We've only got a few sections left to do, and they're things like the, I want to add mosaic tiles here under the doors to add a bit more interest. And I also think I may end up doing like a brass border between these two tiled sections on the floor, just to marry them together a little bit better. So running like a very thin brass border all the way around the outside edges on all of our floors here that have tiles meeting wood and things like that. So what to do now? Will we do the mosaic, or will we do plaster work in the main room? Let's throw some plaster work in, because that's going to be pretty quick to do anyway. So let's jump up here. Now, like I said, I've got these wooden, where are we? Let's get into a position where we can see them. I've got these wooden panels here that I'm using for the middle of the room, but I'm going to use these plaster tiles, plaster panels rather, more like we've got out here, for the outside walls, like these tiles here. So let's do that. Let's grab this one here and duplicate it and bring it upstairs. I'll rotate it around 90 degrees because it's in the wrong direction. Now, I have an interesting design I'm thinking of for the ceiling of this room. We'll talk about that in a minute when I finish doing some of this plaster work. I want to make it a little bit more ornate than the rest of the rooms that we've got going on in the building. I just think because it's such a large room and it's so open looking down to the stairwell, and we are going to have two really large chandeliers, Deco chandeliers hanging here. Having a really interesting ceiling would really help make the room look more interesting. So I did create a texture last night that I'm thinking about using. We'll look at that in a minute in Max. I need to bring in columns for these corners. I forgot about that. So let's just grab one of these wooden columns here. And we'll rotate it around, I think. Yeah. Can't read my little thing there. I think that read 90 degrees. It was difficult for me to see it. Just going to pull back a little bit. Okay. Again, I'm going to make sure that these columns are high enough because the rooms upstairs are higher. They have a higher ceiling than the ones downstairs. Let's scale up our panel here a bit. Just going to pull back so I can get a better overview of it all before I do my scaling. I'll do a uniform scale here, but we may have to scale it in a bit once we place the second one. We'll see how we go. And we also have to place our floors here. We haven't done the floors upstairs in this main room yet. I'm going to make the panel just a little shorter than the floor and the ceiling, simply because we are going to be placing another mesh here for the floor. And we're going to be placing meshes up here for the ceiling as well. Alright, let's move you over. Make sure it's back on the wall. Yep. Okay, let's copy it again. Alright, now we are going to have to scale them in a little bit because they're a little bit wide, so I'm going to position this one about where I want it. And select both of them and scale them in a bit. Need a bit more. You could probably take them out a little bit, might have been a bit much. The only reason I'm doing both of them at the same time is to keep the scale correct. They're like the same size on both of them. A little bit more out. That should be good. Let's copy them to the other side as well. This section's not as wide, and I do have two different types of paneling. I've got a wider one and a narrower one. Let's just see if we can find the wider one. So we may already have the wider one. Yeah, I think we do. Okay. So let's just grab one of them and duplicate it again. That just needs to come out just a tiny bit. Alright. I guess what we should do here is copy them to the other side while we've got them here. So let's select them all and duplicate them again. I think they're the wrong way around though, so we just have to move them down, move you down the other end. I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Move these two the other way. Let's get them sitting back on the wall. That could probably be a good idea. Okay, I'm just going to undo that scale because I forgot the column. I was wondering why the scale was off on this side. It should be identical to the other side, and that's because we didn't bring the column over. So let's do that. And I actually just realized we need to place a column on the other side as well on both of them, so I forgot to do that too. I don't know if you noticed, but these columns are really only like half columns. There's a front and a side and a front, but no back or the other side. That's simply to save a bit of polygon and memory. Polygon memory more than anything, really. No point having a square column if half of it's being hidden. So just having two sides as opposed to four just helps that a bit. It's not a huge amount because this is pretty low poly, this column anyway, but it's always a good habit to get into anyway, just in case. Okay, let's move these panels into place. Yeah, I need a column down this end on both sides, so let's copy that column again. Now this one's going to be interesting because I'm just looking at this because we have our decorative piece here above the door. I don't actually think we probably will put a column here simply because it's going to cover it up and it's going to look odd. So forget that, we won't place a column on that end. Alright. We do have a piece that we're using for underneath the window and above the window, so let's grab that and bring it in. I'm just going to have to get behind my shear here to find it. And it's this one here.
It's in the stories that we say, like someone's waiting to be told. The act encompasses the play. We watch the scenes we live on.
Let's just rotate it around. Again, the lighting up here is not going to look quite right simply because I don't have a reflection zone set up for the upstairs, which is this thing here. I've set one up for the downstairs, but I haven't placed one upstairs yet, and until I do that, we're not going to get proper looking reflections or lighting. So just pointing that out to you guys that think that the upstairs is looking a little different than the downstairs. That's the reason why. I generally don't bring them in until we've got most of the assets ready. There's really no point. Alright, let's scale you down a little bit. Let's grab the piece for the top of the window. It's this one here. Again, I'm working in the perspective viewport here. Most people generally would work in the orthographic viewports, the top, front or left, to do this sort of thing. I don't do it simply because it's really not very interesting for you guys that are watching the stream to watch me working in orthographic. It's much more visually interesting to watch me doing it in perspective. So, but you will find it probably easier to do this in the orthographic, like the top, front, left viewports, as opposed to doing it this way. Okay, now I'm going to scale it out to the right width, and then we'll talk about the reason that it's too high and how I'm going to fix that. Again, I'm just going to make sure it's actually into the wall properly. There we go. Alright, now you see my plaster piece here is a certain size and the texture's been textured up for that size square or rectangle, and I only need it in a really small section up here. But the problem is, if I scale it down like this, it's going to start really squishing my texture. I don't really want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide part of the mesh in the roof. So I'm going to move it up until it's in the right position. And you see part of the mesh here is hidden up in the attic roof, which you're never going to see because no one's ever, the camera's never coming up here. So as opposed, instead of me having to make a new mesh just for that small section, I'm going to reuse that asset and just hide part of it in the wooden frame here and in the ceiling. All right, let's copy these two to the other side. Again, my apologies if you guys can hear any banging going on in the background. They're doing a renovation next door on the building, and yeah, they've got the buzzsaw out, I think, at the moment that I can hear in the background. Hopefully they'll be finished today, so it won't be affecting my streams next week. Let's pull that forward. You may need to scale this one out just a little bit. Whoa. That one's a bit high. I'll fix them all up in a minute. Just want to make sure that the depth here is correct into the wall. Looks like you certainly like your ornate detail. Yes, I do, Johan. Well, it's an Art Deco building, so I think yeah, you got to be careful with Deco. Deco's not really Deco's more geometric than ornate, but I'm calling artistic license here, even though it's a Deco building, and a lot of the assets are Deco-ish. I like to have a bit of ornate going on here and there. Nothing wrong with being ornate. The terraces outside, they're pretty plain, pretty Deco. The garden step terrace things. Guys, when I say your usernames, I'm probably going to get them wrong, so I apologise in advance. Is it Zerbion is asking, do you know how to get tessellation working on a landscape? I do. I'm using it here actually. You've tried everything, but it's bugged. Let's have a look. I'm just going to deselect that for a minute. Zerbion, I'm assuming that's the username, how I pronounce it. If I got it wrong, I'm really sorry, Zerbion. Tessellation, let's go into wireframe mode here. You can see tessellation working here. As I move across my landscape, see the tessellation starts popping in. So tessellation is working, as far as I'm aware. That's right, cool. So yeah, so I do have tessellation here set up on a radius to my camera, or to the viewer. So it only works within a set radius here around the camera, but you can see it popping in when you compare the landscape back there to the landscape in this circle around the camera, it seems to be working. It is for me anyway. You see it pop in there. You're really only going to notice it most when you're in wireframe. It's hard to notice when you're in lit mode, but it is there. What have you tried? Well, why do you say it's bugged, Zerbian? You're saying that the problem is that the tessellation is 100 times the size of the actual height material size. The tessellation is 100 times the size of the actual height material size. Okay. That's probably something that you control through the material. Let me just see if I can find it here. Got to remember, it was the landscape was the first thing I did, so that was a few weeks ago. I think it might be this master material, maybe. Basically, to control, if you're when you do your tessellation, if the tessellation's really high and you're getting those peaks, those like really pointy peaks that you get when you before you smooth the mesh, say it's all jagged. If that's what you mean, then it's generally a problem with the texture size. And you'd fix that in your UV through the UVs. So you'd reduce it through the UV tiling value. It's basically, you need to bring it way down. This is the displacement node here. What am I doing here? This is the master material. You don't generally work with the master. You make an instance and then you promote values that you can change on the fly in the instance. But I'm assuming that's probably going to be a problem. The fact that you're going to have to knock back the height in the UV, and you do that by promoting the value. Or you don't have to promote the value. You only promote it if you want to change it on the fly. But if I can find the actual one that we work with here. No, it's not that one. Don't think it's the container. It is, it's in the container. Perhaps change the max displacement setting in the tessellation section. Well, that could be another option, yeah. Yeah, actually, that's a very good point. I'd forgotten about that. Thanks, Johan. There is a setting also in the tessellation that controls how high or how low the tessellation goes. Unfortunately, Zerbian, you can't, and only subs can post links in chat on Twitch. You can post a link in chat on the Phil Does 3D server, which is on the Twitch desktop app. You need an invite for that, so you just type !server in chat and that'll give you a link that you click on to join my official Phil Does 3D server on the Twitch app, but you have to have the Twitch desktop app installed. And you have to be a follower as well. That's the one. If you've got the Twitch desktop app installed, you can click the link, join the server. I actually don't know if you need the app installed, but you can join the server. You can tweet me the link. You can email me the link even if you want. If you email Phil at phildoes3d.com, you can send it to me that way. You can tweet it to me as well at phildoes3d if you want. Oh, it's an Unreal Engine website link. Yep, no problem. Yeah, look, if you want, you can tweet it to me, or you can email me, phil@phildoes3d.com, either way. Or you can join the Phil Does 3D server and post a link in the general chat there, which, as long as you're a follower. Up to you. I'm happy to look at the link. I'm actually on Twitch to encourage you guys to do 3D. That's the whole reason I stream on Twitch. I'm not here just to work on my own stuff. I'm on Twitch to encourage you guys to do 3D, and I love looking at the work that you guys do. You tweeted it? Okay. It's the problem I have, but not my picture. It's another user. All right, just give me a sec. Oh yeah, no, I'm on Twitch though to look at the work that you guys are doing.